Can you believe this is the final video? We have literally reread the whole of Chain of Gold. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel and my last and final video in my Chain of Gold analysis series. First of all, I want to thank each and every one of you that has been watching these videos from the start, and also those that joined halfway through. If you've just started this series in this video, you should really go back and watch the ones that come before this. There are tons. I've had a great time making these videos and I really hope you've enjoyed watching them as much as I've enjoyed making them. Even though this is the last video on my Chain of Gold analysis series, I've got tons more ideas of videos to film. This is not the end of my YA fiction addiction. It's time for the final disclaimer. This video is littered with spoilers for Chain of Gold, so if you haven't read the book, which you really should have by now because Chain of Iron is right around the corner, please think strongly about watching this video. Although I'm going to be talking about the plot of the book, I'm mainly going to be picking up on tiny references to other books in the Shadowhunter Chronicles, any important things I think you might have missed out and that I only picked up on my second read of the book, and also any hints and allusions to what's going to go down in Chain of Iron. After this series, I actually want to do a quick video on Chain of Iron, sort of like everything we already know about the book, the characters, the plot, when it's set, what's gonna go down, and also of course a few of my favourite theories. So please watch out for that video, but in the meantime sit back and enjoy as I talk about all the tiny Easter eggs and references in chapters 22, 23 and the epilogue. Chapter 22 begins with a short extract from Thomas Hardy's The Ruined Maid poem. And the lines from this poem that I want to bring up are, "And whence such fair garments, such prosperity? Oh, didn't you know I'd been ruined?" said she. So we know in this chapter Cordelia pretends that she'd spent the night with James, which means in Edwardian times, unless she were to marry him, she would be ruined and considered unmarriageable material. James, ever the hero, offers to marry her, and thus is the start of their fake engagement. Although I think this extract, and in particular these lines from the poem, do allude to Cordelia's situation, I also see similarities with Eugenia Lightwood's situation. So we don't know a lot about what actually happened with Eugenia, apart from the fact that she is supposedly ruined. Now, because the Edwardian era sucked for women's rights, this means that she was either caught in a so-called compromising position with a man, or something else happened, so now she isn't seen as pure and ready to marry again. Obviously this is so dumb. One, it takes two to tango, so it was equally the guy's fault as well as hers, and two, come on, this is ridiculous. Let her spend a night with a guy. But we have to remember that we are in the Edwardian period, so these sort of things did happen a lot. Anyway, one thing I really am looking forward to in Chain of Iron is discovering a bit more about Eugenia's backstory, why she's so-called ruined now, and what this means for the Lightwood family. Eugenia wasn't really in Chain of Gold, but I've got a sneaky feeling she's going to play a sort of bigger part in Chain of Iron. Within this chapter, an Enclave Shadowhunter meeting takes place, and everyone and anyone from the London Institute and in the London surrounding area is in attendance. Obviously Will, as head of the London Institute, is present, and Cassie writes how Will shot a meaning glance at Cecily, who made a sisterly face at him. I particularly love this sentence because I just love the dynamic between Will and Cecily. I think it's just such a pure brother and sister dynamic. Obviously when Cecily first introduced herself and came to the London Institute at the end of Clockwork Prince, Will was furious because he thought she would be safer living at home, but over the course of Clockwork Princess they grow to like each other and rediscover the bond they had when they were kids. All this then obviously develops and leads up to this moment when these two are thick as thieves. So the reason why they actually have the Enclave meeting is to discuss what happened to the Blackthorn Manor, which James, Cordelia and Matthew actually burnt down the night prior. Cordelia doesn't want James to get into trouble, so instead she says that he couldn't have been at Blackthorn Manor because instead he was with her in her bedroom. I remember when I first read this sentence on my first read of Chain of Gold, I audibly gasped. It was so unexpected and I was just freaking out for Cordelia because I knew exactly what this would mean for her reputation. Before I started to reread Chain of Gold, I was just chilling on Tumblr, looking at all the tags, the James and Cordelia stuff, the Chain of Gold jokes, and I came across this meme about this scene, and I don't know why, but I really wanted to share it with you guys. I think it's just so ridiculously funny. I feel like people just forget that Tumblr's still hanging about, but honestly, it's one of my favourite social media platforms. It still provides the goods. And if you're interested, I'll leave my Tumblr URL below in the description. There's a really nice reference to the events that go down in the Midnight Heir in the Bane Chronicles stories. I think I've said in my previous two videos that there are actually a few references listed within Chain of Gold with the events that happen in that story. Obviously that story is the accompanying short story for Chain of Gold, so it makes sense that there's like loads of littered Easter eggs between the two. But what I want to pick out today is Magnus Bane confirming Charlotte's story about all the necromantic magic in the Blackthorn Hall, and he says, I can confirm what Charlotte says. In January, Mrs. Blackthorn attempted to hire me to help bring her son back from the dead. If you've read The Midnight Heir, you'll know that Magnus is summoned to Tatiana's house and she asks him for his help to try and resurrect Jesse. Obviously Magnus says no because Tatiana is an absolute crackpot, but yeah, she gets super pissed and basically tells Magnus to get the hell out of her house. This then leads to the infamous Magnus and Grace conversation, which I've spoken about in previous videos, etc, etc, etc. What I want to say is that I'm so glad Magnus got himself the hell out of that situation, and as much as I detest Tatiana, kudos to her for not giving up. She was like, well, Magnus said no, who am I going to call on now? My old friend Belial. You can't say she isn't trying. After Cordelia confesses that she and James spent the night together, Will gets super angry and he goes up to him and he says, James, I can't express how disappointed Tessa and I are in you. We have taught you better than this, both in how you treat women and in how you own up to your mistakes. We love this top tier parenting. For me, Cecily and Gabriel are still the top tier parents, especially with what went down in every Exquisite thing. But can you just imagine Tessa and Will literally sitting James down and being like, dude, you need to respect women. It's just absolutely iconic, and the normal Edwardian man could never. Shortly after, Cordelia and James announce their engagement together, and Will's feelings quickly change to happiness. He gives his blessing to James to marry Cordelia, complimenting her most of all for being from the Carstairs family. Tessa then laughs and says, Will, you cannot compliment our new daughter only on the chance of her last name. Will then grins and says, wait until I tell Jem. This is so cute, and my tiny Hair and Grey star shipping heart just can't take it. Hair and Grey stays forever. Later that same evening, Cordelia finds out exactly what happened to Tatiana, and it is revealed that she is being sent to the Adamant Citadel to live with the Iron Sisters. It's then revealed that Grace is actually going to be moving in with the Bridgestocks, which for me is a really interesting concept. Not only is there the whole dynamic between Ariadne and Anna Lightwood to deal with, but there's also the fact that Grace is just slightly weird, and I really don't know how she's going to fit in with this new family. I'm really excited to find out more about Ariadne, and I just feel like Grace is just going to be like popping up left, right and centre. Bonus points if you can remember that according to this family tree, Christopher is actually set to marry Grace. For me, this idea is totally balmy, unless it's an arranged marriage or a marriage for another reason that isn't actually because they love each other. Although saying that, could Grace's move into the Bridgestock family be how she properly meets and gets to know Christopher? With Ariadne trying to win Anna back, I feel like she might invite the Lightwoods over, which obviously means that Cecily and Gabriel come with Alex and Christopher. I feel like when the adults are talking and obviously looking after baby Alexander, Christopher and Grace could actually have like a normal conversation. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I feel like this could be a way that things start to go down between these two. Chapter 23 is Cordelia and James's engagement party, and of course Charles gets up and wants to say a really boring and dull speech that is definitely not needed and no one wants to hear. He basically takes all the glory for defeating the Manticore and says it was all because of him. Everyone should be so grateful to him. He even goes as far as saying, I am young to have borne so much responsibility, but what could I say when duty called? How can Charlotte and Henry have given birth to such an asshole? I just don't understand. There's a really nice moment between Cordelia and Tessa when Cordelia is expressing her worry about the rumours surrounding their father, and Tessa tells her not to worry because the most interesting women are always the most whispered about. I just love Tessa in this moment. I mean, I love Tessa like through and through. She's one of my favourite Shadowhunter characters. She's such a strong female character, and we really need to stop reducing her to her relationship with Will and her relationship with Jem. She is so much more. Just look how incredible she is with that line. Big up Tessa Gray. There's that really amazing scene when Alistair basically tells Charles to do one and never speak to him again, which, as iconic as it is, I didn't actually pick up any important references that I think we need to talk about. However, the next paragraph then skips to James, who is standing outside on the balcony outside the ballroom. There's a nice little throwaway line about this balcony that says it didn't actually exist when James's father Will was younger, but Will and Tessa had actually added the balcony to the London Institute because both his parents had a fondness for balconies. Obviously this is referring to the scene in Clockwork Prince at Benedict Lightwood's masquerade ball, where Will and Tessa get hot and heavy on Benedict Lightwood's balcony. I feel like this was such like a pinnacle point of their relationship, so I obviously understand why they've just decided to build dozens of balconies into the London Institute. It's cute, it's romantic, and it's a little bit kinky if I'm honest. The book then switches perspectives from Cordelia and James to Anna Lightwood, and Anna basically shares her doubts about the engagement, saying there was something suspicious about the suddenness of it. I think at this point the only people that know the truth about James and Cordelia's relationship and their engagement are the Merry Thieves and Lucy, so the fact that Anna's able to make this suspicion is actually pretty interesting. We know that Magnus is fooled by their love, and he does genuinely believe this is a real marriage until he is told otherwise, but I think this just shows how much of a genius Anna Lightwood is. She's so good at reading people and she knows the ins and outs of love and relationships. Again, Anna Lightwood, superior character, and I'm just gonna leave it there. Anna then goes into the games room and is shortly met by none other than Ariadne, who tells her that she's gonna win her back, which I'm so excited for in Chain of Iron. But the thing I want to pick out here is a description of the games room that Anna actually picks up. She mentions how the games room is in shadow, but she can still see the chess set her father had given Will. Again, this is a really cute development of a friendship. Do you remember how much Gabriel and Will hated each other in the Infernal Devices series? They were just so angry with each other, and the thought of Cecily potentially being with Gabriel made Will so cross. But now here they are exchanging chess sets. You just couldn't ask for a better progression of brother-in-laws. When Anna spots Ariadne, she goes to leave the games room and says she's really sorry. She didn't realise that Ariadne was actually already in there. To which Ariadne says, "Anna, stop. I want to talk to you." Anna paused, staring at the door. Her heart beat loudly in her ears. She cursed herself. She should be long past feeling this way. So foolish, so young. "I am Anna Lightwood," she told herself. "Nothing touches me." I'm sorry, this is just Izzy Lightwood, let's be real. I feel the same way about Anna and Izzy that I do about Cordelia and Emma. Their counterparts in the series are just so good, and I just wish they could meet each other because they would just get on like a house on fire, or Blackthorn Manor on fire. But yeah, I just got total Izzy vibes in this bit. Outside the games room, and it is finally revealed what Alistair did at Shadowhunter Academy. Without any spoilers, Alistair basically spread a super harmful rumour, which then obviously caused Matthew to do what he did in cast long shadows from the ghost of the Shadow Market. But yeah, basically the truth all comes out. Thomas then basically says that he's familiar with the tale, but he had no idea that Alistair started it. He tells Alistair that his mum was weeping over hearing about it, his father was so angry and so upset, and his sisters crushed with shame over lies. Again, going back to what I was saying about Eugenia, I feel like this is a nice little setup to how Eugenia's reputation has also been ruined by lies. This sentence is definitely referring to the horrible rumour that Alistair spread around, but I do feel like it could also foreshadow what went down in Eugenia's life in the past. And I will definitely try and talk about this more in my Chain of Iron video. Like I said before, Magnus is one of the only other people that knows the truth behind James and Cordelia's marriage. And it's actually Matthew Fairchild that tells him in this chapter. And he says, "It would be one thing if James loved her. I would go into the quiet dark like Jem did and never speak of her again, but he doesn't love her." Matthew, how dare you drag Jem, Will and Tessa into this? That was just another stab in the heart that I definitely did not need at this point. James and Cordelia then have a dance together, and James thanks Cordelia for agreeing to fake marry him, and he says, "Remember how well we did in the Whispering Room? We fooled them all." I can't. James, you need to wake up. I am so not ready for these two in Chain of Iron. So at the end of chapter 23, and technically the end of the main body of the novel, Cordelia basically says how now she's got everything she ever wished for, but under all false circumstances. She's finally marrying James, the guy she's loved forever, but it's a fake marriage. This ending to the book is really sad, but I really feel like it does set us up really nicely for Chain of Iron. So yeah, a super sad ending, but also a super well written ending. So the epilogue of Chain of Gold. Gideon and Gabriel are escorting Tatiana to Chiswick House to pick up some of her belongings so she can move out. As she's walking to the Italian gardens, she thinks about how much she hates the Herondale family and how in her opinion there should be far more instances of the name Lightwood. She then makes the worst comment and says she wouldn't be surprised if Will Herondale's warlock wife wasn't the first time they'd sullied the line with Downworlder blood. Oh, Tatiana, you're such a piece of crap. So I'm thinking, who wants to tell her that yes, the Lightwood name does become more popular when Alec Lightwood Lightwood becomes consul. But who does Alec marry? The downworld of Magnus Bane. Oh, the irony is so beautiful. You couldn't write it better. So the final point I want to bring up, and also the final point of this whole series, is in Tatiana's conversation with Belial. She's moaning about having to go to the Adamant Citadel, and he's basically saying like, actually, that was part of my plan. No one can break into the Adamant Citadel, which leaves her to cause chaos from the inside out. My final point is a bit of a reach, but I do think there are some legs to stand on here. Malcolm Fade. Cast your minds back to the start of Chain of Gold and the first time in the Hell Rule, and Malcolm Fade asks Cordelia if she's got any Blackthorn blood in her. So I've mentioned before that this reference is an allusion to the fact that Malcolm is looking for the Blackthorn family to punish them for what they did to Annabelle, because for all he knows, Annabelle has just been sent to the Adamant Citadel to become an Iron Sister. However, in reality, it didn't quite go like that. Instead, she was tortured and buried alive. Fast forward over 100 years, and in Lady Midnight, Malcolm is fully aware of exactly what happened to Annabelle. My point is, somewhere along the line, he had to find out the truth, and I think it's going to happen in Chain of Iron. Malcolm is so sketchy, and I don't know why, but I really feel like he's going to go visit Tatiana in the Adamant Citadel. He's going to find out that Annabelle isn't actually there anymore, and he's going to realise what happened to her. I can't even think about that conversation. It just fills me with so much dread. Oh, Malcolm. He really did have a hard go of it, didn't he? That's it. We're finished. We're done. We've just reread the whole of Chain of Gold. Once again, thank you so much, guys, for watching this series and this video. If you've enjoyed it, please give it a like. Remember to subscribe to my channel and go on, introduce yourself in the comments below. Tell me your thoughts on the last few videos. I am dying to find out, and I really hope you guys have enjoyed this recent series. Like I said, this isn't the end of my YA fiction addiction, and I'm sure you guys will see me again in no time. And so concludes Analysing Chain of Gold by Cassandra Clare.